Hello and welcome back to AEF TV in association with Engerati, and I'm joined now by Chaim Motzen, who's the Managing Director at Gigawatt Global, and I feel this is a great interview to end today on. I'm going to let Chaim do most of the talking. Firstly, welcome to the studio. Thank you for being here. And one of the things that excites me about being here, and we were talking a bit off air, is about the project that you were involved with in Rwanda. Pretty much, actually, probably the fastest project from start to near completion. We'll put that caveat in. Tell us just a little bit about that sort of journey. I mean, the stats are amazing. What was it, like 7 months from negotiation to breaking ground or something like that?
So the project began in 2012. We completed our feasibility study. We started discussions with the government of Rwanda and the local utility towards the end of 2012. We started our feasibility study. The government accepted and the utility accepted our feasibility study in the beginning of 2013, at which point we started negotiating a power purchase agreement. That took us from February through July. We signed a power purchase agreement, concession agreement, government guarantee package, July 22nd, 2013. We completed financial close with all conditions precedent completed on February 14th, 2014. So 6 months plus, less than 7 months. And we're now in the final stages of construction. We hope to interconnect in the grid in less than 2 months.
So that's pretty amazing pace, right? A project like that at that pace, it doesn't come without its challenges. I mean, I'm sure you had a few sort of moments along the way where, like, just talk a little bit about those,
Sure.
to bring it to life a bit.
One of the key issues is Rwanda desperately needs energy. There's about 11.5 million people in the country, and only about 113 megawatts connect to the grid. About 15% of the people have access to electricity. So there's a tremendous need for more power. The way the deal was structured basically ensured that we would move quickly. We had a very strict deadline by which we had to reach financial close. A deadline that some told me was unrealistic. But we accepted that deadline and we worked to get to that deadline.
And the deadline was imposed from the government?
It was part of the agreement, and right. in our power purchase agreement we had part of the agreement that we had was we had to meet and reach financial close by a certain date, and that caused a lot of the pressure to move super quickly. It's pressure that we were able to meet because of the partners, which I'll talk about a little further, but that we were able to work with. But also the government of Rwanda, was very incentivized also, and is very incentivized to get energy on the grid as quickly as possible. But one of the key issues is speed. Most deals take a long time to do due diligence on and to get properly financed. And we faced that issue, and we're very fortunate to partner with FMO, an Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund, as our lenders, with North Fund, and with Scatec, who's an equity holder in EPC as well, as our equity partners, who were able to move as quickly as they were, and it was quite a challenge for all of us.
And were they able to move as quickly as they were able to because they've got a legacy in Africa and they know the conditions and things like that?
So I think that's definitely part of the story. There's also the fact that this is the second IPP project. The legal team on the project was Norton Rose, who also negotiated the first IPP, and I think the fact they had this experience working on a prior project definitely made it easier to do the second project. Norton Rose was fantastic and absolutely critical. I think the other piece is that we spent 5 months negotiating this power purchase agreement, and the power purchase agreement was very solid. The package, the concession agreement, power purchase agreement, government guarantee was solid, and that was absolutely critical as a basis upon which we could move quickly. If we didn't have that in place, there's no way we could have moved quickly. We would have had to do some renegotiations, and because it was negotiated fairly and solidly, When it came time to do due diligence financial close, there were very few things that had to be tweaked. It was basically done, and it was done well.
And if I can dive into the tech a little bit, why solar? Was that like preconceived, or was that?
So, I think solar is part of the mix in Rwanda. Right now, Rwanda has about close to 50% of its energy comes from diesel, which is much more expensive than solar. In some places, solar needs to be subsidized. In Rwanda, when you compare it to diesel, it actually is significantly less expensive. The grid can handle, we did all kinds of studies to show that the grid can handle the amount of solar power that we're putting on the grid, 8.5 megawatts, which will be about 7% of the country's generation capacity. The grid can handle that. So the advantage of solar is relative to diesel, it makes sense even from a financial perspective. From a speed perspective, it's the fastest. We can move faster with solar than with any other type of generation, and since the country so desperately needs the energy, solar is a good choice, and is also doesn't require, it's an independent energy choice. You don't have to bring anything from anywhere else once it's constructed.
Sustainable.
So it's certainly sustainable. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's definitely correct.
Yeah.
And it made sense for this context, for Rwanda at this time.
And who were some of the sort of? I mean, every solar is solar, but there's different ways you can build these things and stuff like that. So, who are some of the technology partners who are involved in that delivery side of things? Because you've got all these challenges. You negotiated with the government. Then you've got the other challenge where Norton Rose and the like got involved, and then you've got the delivery challenge.
Sure. So once we signed the deal in July 2013, we did an international RFP. We actually had 17 different bidders, 17 different EPC bidders. We chose Scatec, who also came in as a majority equity investor as well in the project. So Scatec, which is a Norwegian EPC, large Norwegian EPC, which also built the first large-scale solar field in South Africa, is our engineering, procurement, and construction provider. We're using different technology from different places. We have SMA inverters. We're using Edimatech for a tracker system, and we're using BYD modules out of China.
And that's the storage technology, or it's just
we're not storage technology. It's a tracker system,
right?
But it's not. We do not have storage. It's solar PV, standalone solar PV.
And that's because the grid has got so much need. There's kind of no need to store anything.
No, storage is just more expensive. Yeah. So storage is always helpful and would be fantastic. Right now, the cost for that is prohibitive at this stage, but hopefully technology will develop further that storage, large. I mean, there's smaller amounts of storage that can be done right now, but hopefully the technology will develop and it'll be more cost effective to continue to do storage.
But also a lot of people are saying in certain instances, actually, you don't really need that storage if you can balance the two fuel sources
exactly right. And I'm not an engineer, but 5 sets of engineers have reviewed the effect of 8.5 megawatts on their Rwandan grid, and have concluded that it is acceptable. Right. Good. And they better be right.
They better be right, because it's not long now, a couple of months, and you're going to be online. So, I mean, this must have been a fascinating project for you to be involved in and leading the whole thing. I'm surprised you're still in one piece. I mean, were there sort of any other things along the way where you went, gosh, we might not make it? I don't want to focus on the negative too much, but I want to put that into context of other people, following in your path, going, what are some of the lessons?
So, first of all, we had 4 months of no sleep. I would say it's 3 months definitely, but I would say from October through February, I don't think I've ever slept as little and worked as hard. And I'm generally a hard worker, so that was challenging. We were, in terms of some of the things that were scary. So first of all, putting the right financing in place. It all sounds very nice. We have FMO, EIF, Norfund, Scatec, great. But all of that was uncertain when we signed the deal. So the fact that to put that together in the amount of time that we did was certainly challenging. In terms of some of the other things that were very challenging, taxes, which isn't a topic that I knew very much about before getting involved in the details here. It's very hard to really understand the tax code in a country, and it's really important, and it turned out for us it was very critical to get the right understanding of the tax code, to make sure that the understandings were agreed upon and that the benefits were understood and I guess memorialized legally. And getting that wrong could have also had a very, very large impact on the deal.
And is that because of the levy then on your profits and things like that, or
part of any agreement, or part of the agreement, power purchase agreement, part of an agreement with the government has to do with getting the overall. It's part tariff, it's part taxes. It's not, you can't separate the two. And I think developers negotiating a tariff, which a lot of times people spend a tremendous amount of time negotiating power purchase agreement.
They forget the other layer.
Without really understanding for themselves the intricacies of the tax code, could be very problematic and could actually kill a deal post facto, after you think everything's done. The ability to, what made our lives somewhat easier, despite the challenges, we had a Rwandan utility ministry, Rwanda Development Board, that was very, very eager to make this project happen.
So they kind of made things happen for you.
So when you need to, there's bureaucracy everywhere. When you need certain permits, things took time, an appropriate amount of time, but there wasn't additional bureaucracy, and people moved quickly, people did things professionally, and that made things manageable. But there was certainly a lot of challenges along the way. You need a lot of ministers to sign off on things. You need a lot of different departments. You need a lot of people to review things. Yeah, it was challenging.
I suppose not unlike any ambitious big project that you undertake. So, if I can go right to the beginning, what made you want to do it in the first place?
Good question. So we looked at about 7-8 different countries. One of the, and Rwanda was only one of a number of countries, and each of the countries I had been connected to or had my own potential contacts who I could partner with locally on the ground. In Rwanda we had a number of things that came together. First of all, there was the need. So I'm not sure if you're asking why in general solar energy, or why in general Rwanda, this specific project.
No.
And if it's the latter,
if you just looking at it from a macro perspective, you've got opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not shy of opportunities.
Exactly.
What was it about this one?
So number one, there was a real need, as we discussed earlier. There's a real need. They desperately need energy. Solar makes sense in their one context of half the country's energy coming from diesel, and the need for fast energy. Number two, you have a country with an excellent business record. If you look at where Rwanda ranks in terms of doing business, it's 20-something right now, which is remarkable. I believe it's the highest in Africa.
Well, it's typically remarkable with what do I want to say? The notion people have when you say Rwanda. You aren't thinking about a place to do business.
Absolutely, but it's a fantastic place to do business. There's very little corruption. You can do business there, and you can do business properly, and moving things at the speed that we talked about earlier. So it's a good business environment. The country desperately needs energy, and I found really good partners on the ground. So we are building on the site of a youth village, Agahodishlam Youth Village, and we are partnering with local partners who are very, very strong local partners. I met a person who led a group called Remote Group. At the time, He worked under different auspices, and now is independent. But basically, bottom line is I have a good local partner, which is important, and you have the right business environment in the country, and you have the need. So all those things really came together from my perspective, and I also we took some risk, but took limited risk and moved forward, and took more risk and moved forward. Found moved in lockstep with the government as we did.
With every project, and we're coming to the end of our time, there comes a point of no return, where you have that risk, and then you move, and then you hit the point of no return. Was that when you guys signed the deal? Or
I think at that point, I guess it was no return. But I think when we realized that the government was very serious about negotiating with the PPA and brought in Norton Rose, which, as I mentioned, did a phenomenal job, led by Simon Curry, Laura Coelho, in negotiating the power purchase agreement with the government of Rwanda. At that point, we were in. We felt that we had serious partners with the government, and after that point, we just we ran a marathon at the pace of a sprint over the next 6-7 months to get it financed.
And then I suppose it also becomes a mutual credibility issue, from the government side, from the private sector side, saying that we can deliver.
Exactly.
We want to show that we can do this as well.
I think that's part of it. I think they're proud of how fast this project went. There's a lot of projects that take years, and there's a lot of projects in development that take years. Some of them get built, some of them never do get built, and they're proud of it. So yes, I guess on both sides, where there's mutual credibility, and there's interest, and both financial and reputational, that lead us to this, to the positive conclusion here.
Well, thanks for coming in and sharing about it. I genuinely mean it. It's a great story to punctuate the end of the day on, because it shows that all of this is possible, and things like that. I've one request to you. Ping me a note when you're done.
I absolutely will.
Yeah, and
I absolutely will. And I want to mention one other. It's important to give credit where credit is due. I had a partner in this who was fantastic, working with me as part of my team, Rafi Martirosyan, who was absolutely incredible, and I led the project. Couldn't have concluded it without him being part of the team.
Well, if the opportunity arises, we'll have both of you, perhaps at one stage. I'm sure if you've done this, I'm sure you're going to be doing others, and the journey will continue. It's a pleasure meeting you, and thank you thank you for being in the studio. Thank you as well for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview. I certainly did. I think it crystallized some of the things that were being said in the other interviews around Africa Energy Forum, and you can see this and other interviews on Engerati, as well as the Powering Africa Hub. I hope you enjoy that content, and look forward to meeting you online soon.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.